Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our guest lecture number 50. So today it's a great milestone of Dhamma USA Thursday online guest lecture series. And today we have Dr. Neelam Oswal. Vipassana and Social Change is the topic today. And just a quick snapshot of the event. Dr. Neelam Oswal is a clinical psychologist, Institute of Psychological Health, IPH, Pune, and lecturer Buddhist Psychology, Pali and Buddhist Studies Department, Savitri Bal, Pune University, uh, Pune University. Neelam is trained as a clinical psychologist during her MPhil in medical and social psychology from Central Institute of Psychiatry, Ranchi, India. Since 1999, she has worked as a clinical psychologist in rural and urban area of Maharashtra, India. After her exposure to Vipassana meditation as taught by S.N. Goenka in the tradition of Uba King, she started exploring commonalities and differences between mainstream psychology and Buddhist psychology and their contribution to each other. The result of this empirical and theoretical research has been a diploma course in Theravada Buddhist psychology and psychotherapy. It's been offered by SP Pune University since 2005. So that is our wonderful lecturer today, guest lecture, and I would like to invite her to this session today. Hello, Dr. Neelam.
Namaste.
Welcome to our Dhamma USA. This is number 50. This is like golden jubilee for us. Thank you so much for joining, and really a pleasure to meet you today. You said you are also working in Pune University. Would you like
Yes,
to say something about that?
yes, sure. So before starting, let me pay homage to the Buddha, like who showed us this path for liberation. Humanity is benefited tremendously because of that. I also pay homage to all the teachers, all the venerable teachers who has preserved these teachings in last 2,500 years. And I pay homage to Acharya S.N. Goenka, who has taught me, from whom I have directly learned Vipassana meditation. So let me share a bit background about today's topic. That when I was trained as a clinical psychologist, I was the mindfulness-based psychotherapies were not in our curriculum actually.
Hmm.
It happened that a little later, I attended this Vipassana course. I practiced as I was instructed. And I still remember that aha moment that, oh, they are speaking about mind body relation. And this is what psychology is also interested in. And then I started thinking that if I have been benefited by this practice, and I see that many others are being benefited, can the same be used for my clients as well? And I decided that, okay, let me research into that. And then it happened that there was a social psychology conference in the same year, again in India, and one psychiatrist, I do not remember his name now, but he was presenting a paper on mindfulness. And the concepts he shared were so much similar to what I have learned in Vipassana. So I thought that let me explore, like, is there any relation between the two? And then I found that yes, Vipassana is the origin of all this mindfulness wave in psychology. And I came to know that it was 1979 when John Kabat-Zinn, for the first time, brought together the wisdom from Vipassana meditation. He was a practitioner with his insight into, with his knowledge into medical field, and started this mindfulness based stress reduction. Of course, Indian psychologists were a little late to join this mindfulness movement. But these days, in last decade or so, like many people, like many of my colleagues, I see that they are interested to know more about mindfulness, even though they have not done a Vipassana course. And the course, Banteji, you referred to, this Buddhist psychology and psychotherapy in Pali department of Pune University, that also started with the initiative of our head of the department, Professor Mahesh Devkar, who wanted to bring together both the things. And we are offering this course for last 9 years now, since 2015. So I'm going to start this discussion on Vipassana and social change from one of the invitations which I got in this context itself a couple of months ago. So, like as I told you, like many of my colleagues, mental health professionals, these days are interested to know more about mindfulness. And because they know that I'm a mental health professional practicing as a clinical psychologist for last almost 25 years, and I'm also a Vipassana practitioner, they do ask me to take such sessions for introduction to mindfulness for different groups. And it happened that this time I was invited to speak to a queer group in India. And see, like in last few years, I have realized that if I try to present mindfulness as it is, without any reference to Vipassana, people take it as a stress management technique, or like it becomes a theoretical construct unless they have experienced it directly. So what I do these days that I also offer 10 minutes anapana practice. 10 minutes like breathing in, breathing awareness of that. If a theoretical lecture is associated with that, people are benefited more. That's what I have found. And like since this session was with a queer group, I had to be a little more cautious. So I have become aware of queer identities through some of my clients, through some of my friends. And I'm aware that social suppression, stigma, these people have to go through, face even these days. And I didn't want to understand that mindfulness is just closing their eyes to these issues and feeling relaxed. In fact, I wanted them to have mindfulness as a tool to deal with their issues, even the clearing issues. So I was a bit cautious, careful while introducing this session. And here I'll start sharing my presentation so that I can go through this. Okay, great. Thank you. Uh, okay, so no, a little before. So I'll share like what happened in this particular session. So as it was customary for this group to introduce to each other, we all introduced each other. Like for example, like I introduced that I'm Neelam and I can be referred to as I'm she and her. Hmm? I can be referred to as she or her. Then we started sharing like all the participants, there were actually 10 participants in the group that evening, and they were sharing about their sufferings. And they shared like how parents were partial to them. Another person shared that if only like they could be more open with their parents. Another person shared that if I was not bullied in school. Another person, oh, if my wish was fulfilled, if I had more money. So the ifs were many. And then finally I concluded the suffering. So if we have to conclude what is suffering, so the suffering is coming across any disagreeable thing and losing something which is very dearly desired. Everybody agreed to that. Then I was asking them, like, what do you do when you come across such suffering? So somebody said that they were basically from rural area, but they chose to shift to urban areas so that there will be anonymity and they can live in anonymity as they wished. But it happened that the question that what if my close ones get to know about this aspect of my life, that this question kept haunting them. Another set of people chose to divert from these issues by indulging themselves, immersing themselves in so many activities. But it happened that in quiet moments, the same issues would pop up. Another set of people decided to rebel. But then the cost was their close relations, close connections. So at this point, I introduce mindfulness as a way to face reality as it is. To mindfulness as a way to face reality as it is, not a way as I desired. I also share that it is being in the present. Mindfulness is being in the present, not to be indulged into my memories of the past or imagination about the future. So, after this discussion about mindfulness, there was time for practicing of Anapan. So, we started practicing. Many of the group did join in the Anapana practice, but 2, 3 of the group didn't want to join. So they kept their eyes open. I was, of course, fine with that. It has to be their choice. And after the 10 minutes practice, we all started sharing our experiences. And the person who had kept her eyes open, she was stuck with one of my slides, which shared that mindfulness is facing the reality as it is. And she was very furious. And she said, if mindfulness is this, I better do not practice it. I was surprised. I said, what happened? I said, like, if we have to face reality as it is, the reality is never going to change. And then, like, we are suffering so much, how our suffering would be reduced? I was shocked to hear this. I was taken aback, and I must have answered some things to her. But then, like, whatever I said, like, it got vaporized in her anger and fury. I realized that this was the reason that she didn't want to participate in this thing. And then I left the thing, but the question kept on churning. I kept on wondering how this can be, what would have happened? What would be the other way to present the same thing? And like I was thinking about it. So I realized that it is not the first time that I have been asked this kind of question. People do ask that what if we start being aware of our ingoing and outgoing breath? Our problems are going to remain the same, isn't it? Or people have asked, like, won't it reduce our productivity? Or like people have asked, like it's difficult. And at that moment, like I must agree that though I have heard these kind of questions, and I have many a times told these people who have asked these questions that experience it to believe it. Why to engage in theoretical discussion? But now I started wondering how to explain this construct to the people who are not ready to experience it. I was disturbed. Probably my image of expert, so called expert on this topic, must have been shattered. I consoled myself that maybe not everyone understands. See, mindfulness has a different discourse, different narrative. It says that cultivate your awareness to reach your goal. Whereas the dominant discourse in the society is that strive hard to reach your goal. So maybe not everybody would understand in the first go itself, but still, I must find out like what is the like how this can be explained to different groups of people, and that's where the the story started for this presentation. So the first thing I started thinking, see, like this session was about introduction to mindfulness. And mindfulness has its origin in Vipassana practice. We know that Vipassana practice is a systematic training in the Noble Eightfold Path as taught by the Buddha. And this Eightfold Path can be divided into three divisions. First is morality or wholesome behavior. I'm sure you know all these things, but I'm summarizing it quickly to uh, as a foundation for this particular topic, which I want to share with you today. So, morality has right speech, right action, and right livelihood, which leads to concentration or one pointedness of mind, and which has right efforts, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And the third division of this three shiksha is right thoughts and right understanding. So, right thoughts are thoughts which are without greed, hatred, delusion. And right understanding has to be experiential understanding, not just intellectual understanding. So, we can see that right mindfulness is one part of the second division, is one step on this noble eightfold path. And so after this, because right, mindfulness is just one aspect of the whole practice of Vipassana meditation, I decided to focus on Vipassana and social change rather than mindfulness and social change, though the question has arisen mainly in the introductory session to mindfulness. So I started asking few questions to myself. So first I started interrogating about my own experiences. So I must share with you that I'm a very skeptical and open-minded Vipassana meditator. Coming from psychology background, it was difficult for me to take Vipassana meditation as it is. And after that aha moment I referred to, I started being a little more serious about it. And I still remember that in the first course, I had not yet decided that like whether to practice going back home, whether to practice regularly or not. And I heard Goenkaji towards the end saying that resolve to practice daily, at least for a year. That will give you long term benefits. And I don't know what happened, but I instantly decided that, okay, let me experiment with myself at least for 1 year. So now this was the point I started introspecting about. I still remember this was the time when in my marriage, like I was becoming aware of differences of opinion between us, which would eventually lead to fights. And I remember that when I decided that, okay, like now I'll practice 1 hour meditation, at least for 1 year, the predominant thought, or maybe not that conscious thought at that moment, that, oh, there would be 1 hour less of fights at least. Looking back, I feel that maybe that time, somewhere I must have had this impression that through Vipassana, I would be able to close eyes, close my eyes to this outside reality. Now, of course, I'm aware, like through experiences, I have seen that it is just not closing eyes to the fights, but it is about being more open. Practice has made me more open to his views also. Besides, like I kept seeing, like Goenkaji was also asked similar questions about how social change would happen after the practice of Vipassana. And I see through his answers, which are compiled on VRI website. VRI is Vipassana Research Institute. I see that he has answered, he was very convinced that individual transformation is a key to change any unjust social issue. No persuasion, no violent opposition. That would not change a person. No laws, no punishment wouldn't change a person. But if this transformation has to happen from within, so I'm convinced that yes, individual change would lead to social change through my own experiences also and by reading his answers also. But what is the mechanism of this change? A, a meditator practicing vipassana leading to social change. How does this happen? Was my question in this introspection. So that takes me to the further theme. So I first thought, of course, like the question which this lady had asked me in this peer group, I was remembering that time and again. And I first asked this question, which reality is she referring to? So she was referring to the external reality, which was in the form of social discrimination against some gender identities. And what is the reality which Vipassana is referring to? So Vipassana is referring to the reality within the person. Vipassana is referring to the mental processes which have started by this discrimination. Vipassana is referring to the interconnection between this external reality and internal reality. And Vipassana is also helping me to explore reality beneath the apparent reality, that discrimination and negativity. So let me explain this particular point with one example. So let me share a story of a young adult girl who says that she has become negative because her parents had not approved of her choice of partner. She has become negative and irritable after that. For her, reality is this only, that they didn't approve my choice of partner, and that had started the whole negativity in my life. And further, she would defend herself also. That see, anyone in my position who is not supported by her close ones would feel the same, isn't it? So, if we come to Vipassana, the word Vipassana itself means, the Pasana is a Pali word, and which says that it is seeing at the reality, perceiving the reality in a special way, which means going beneath this reality of they didn't approve and I felt negative. So, what was happening beneath this? So, it happened that because this young girl's parents didn't approve of her choice of partner, she started becoming more dependent on her partner. Now, it happened that she would always seek his attention. And if any times she notices that he is busy with other things, huh, busy with uh, other things like he is speaking about his girlfriends, or he is speaking about uh, many other things, or he is busy doing other activities, she would feel that, oh, he is ignoring me, and she would start feeling very irritable. Now, here in the next slide, I'm presenting like sometimes, like she herself started, she was very fed up with what is happening. Like he is ignoring me, and I'm irritable, I'm miserable every time. And she sought out a counselor and had this dialogue with a counselor, or maybe with another person. This dialogue may happen with the same person, like the person is introspecting, and there also this dialogue can happen. I want to present this dialogue as any person's going a little beneath the apparent reality. I'm miserable because the situation is like this, is the apparent truth. And anyone who starts going beneath may have this kind of dialogue. Hmm. So this girl asked the counselor, I do not understand. Why am I always irritable and sad in this relationship? This relationship I have chosen for myself, but it is not working for me. The counselor asked that which are the times when you get irritated in this relation? And the girl says that most of the times these days, though there are some rare moments of happiness, I must agree, but I get irritated when he does not approve of what I do, when he praises his other female friends, when he continues to flip through his WhatsApp messages as I'm talking to her. The counselor asked, what are your thoughts when he does these things? I feel that he does not like me anymore and he may leave me, just as my parents did. And then what do you do in such moments? Girl said, at times I say something very angrily, or I find fault with his female friends. But sometimes when I see that he is offended, when I'm finding faults, I may try to be over good with his female friends so that I continue to seek his attention. And all these things make me very irritable. See, I tell you, I do not even have the option of returning to my parents. He knows it, and that's why he is taking advantage of this. This is a very representative kind of dialogue which any counselor faces and which any person faces actually, sometimes or others. So you would see five aggregates, Panchaskanda in this dialogue. Some of the five khandas, five aggregates in this dialogue. Buddha's teachings tell us that human beings are nothing but coming together of five aggregates. They are materiality, rupa, consciousness, vijnana, which can be visual, auditory, olfactory, gustatory, tactile, and mental. The third khanda, third aggregate is perception or sanya, which is interpretation of the outside stimulus and its evaluation by me as favorable or unfavorable. Along with that also starts feelings, which arises in the form of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral bodily sensations. And then, based on these perception, interpretation, and reaction, leads to feelings, it leads to some reaction, which is either greed or hatred. Whatever is favorable and giving me pleasant sensations, I would like to have it again and again. And I would like to withdraw, I would hate it if it is not favorable, if it is giving me unpleasant sensations. We all know these things. So, in this story of this young girl, we can see that she becomes aware of, like, I'll keep the materiality outside because we are focusing more on this mentality aggregates, mentality related aggregates. And three of them we can see in the girl's story. The girl becomes aware that her partner is not paying attention to her, or her partner is busy flipping through WhatsApp messages, or he is speaking about his girlfriends, other girlfriends. So she interprets, the perception starts working. She interprets that he's no more interested in me, he doesn't want me, he may leave me. And at this moment, her deep rooted trauma that my parents have abandoned me, that comes up and makes her even more negative. And her reaction is either of greed, like the reaction is of craving to seek his attention, but it is expressed through being over good to his friends or being like shouting at him, why do you do this and that, and like that. So, going ahead. Now, this same girl, what happens that before she lands up in a Vipassana course, that after this dialogue, actually she realizes that, like, if she continues with the same reaction, I'll just go back to the previous slide. She realizes that if she continues with the same reaction of shouting or being overgood, like, actually it is not good for her relationship. And if this relationship is very important for her, it is better that she improves on her reaction and better she does not react in the same way. She agrees, she understands. But then this is like when actual moment comes, she doesn't even understand when she has started shouting in her interaction with her partner. Or sometimes she feels that her counselor has told her that why to, like, though you have noticed that he is flipping through messages or he is speaking about his girlfriends, but why to interpret that he doesn't like you or he's ignoring, he wants to abandon you? She says, yeah, agreed, I shouldn't. But this wisdom also remains the wisdom of the quiet moment, and any indication that he is ignoring leads to intense suffering. So that's where she is looking for some other remedy and she lands up in this Vipassana course. So we know that Vipassana course starts with the practice of shamatha, which is in a 10-day course. As I learned it, it starts with anapana, being aware of breath. So for 3.5 days, she was practicing anapana, being aware of her ingoing, outgoing breath. And later she was asked to practice to be aware of her bodily sensations in each and every body part. So as she was doing that, mind was wandering in different things, her favorable, unfavorable things in her life which have happened so far. Memories of the past, her dreams, insecurities, imagination, everything she was carrying inside. She became aware that as she thinks of any positive incidents or any negative incidents, speed of her breath changes and even the quality of her sensations also change. When she noticed that, and like during the discourse, in the course, she was also listening to the explanation of the process. And there she realized that actually, like, why is she attending to the breath or sensations? Because breath and sensations, this aspect of the Panchakhanda, Vedana aspect, which was missing from her earlier efforts, they are the subtlest aspect of any of her thoughts. She was not directly observing her thoughts, because all her previous efforts were that only. Whenever she tried to introspect, she would either start defending herself or she would blame her partner. Now she was observing thoughts, but not directly observing them. She was observing the subtlest aspect of her thoughts, and which was sensations, which was Vedana. And this observation helped her, observation of Vedana, of observation of bodily sensations, helped her to develop equanimity, because she observed that sensations, however they are, whether they are pleasant or unpleasant, they are passing away. And as they are passing away, the thoughts which have arisen along with them, whether favorable thoughts, positive thoughts, or negative thoughts, they would also pass. With this direct experience that yes, things are changing, she could develop equanimity and she started becoming calmer. With this equanimity, she she was still observing her thoughts, her breath, and it happened that many deep rooted negativities would come up, of course, in the form of sensations and thoughts. She would observe them also very equanimously without reacting to the sensations. And they would also go away. She was feeling lighter as the load was going away. And somewhere this realization came up that, oh, my craving is leading to suffering. And after this realization, it is not promised that as a person starts practicing that suddenly this insight would pop up. This insight that craving leads to suffering would pop up. But somewhere, as the person starts practicing, somewhere it is bound to happen. And with this insight, with this equanimity, there was more positivity. When negativity went away, positivity started springing up. There was more openness about her parents, about her partner. She could forgive her parents. She could see that they didn't do it to hurt her intentionally. In fact, they must have had their own social pressures. With this thing, patience was getting developed. There was more of loving kindness, metta. There was more of compassion, karuna. There was more of joy, mudita. She came out of the course. She also must have decided that, okay, let me practice regularly, at least for a while. And then she started noticing that in any interaction, this openness, this positivity is helping her in any interaction. Earlier, her habitual reaction pattern used to jump up in any interaction with her partner, but now she would take a pause. She would observe her breath. She would observe her sensations and would think that is it really necessary, my habitual kind of reaction? What is it based on? And she could change her talk, change the track of her thoughts. The earlier track of her thoughts was leading to misery. Now her new track of thoughts was leading to the joy. And even though she did not remember to change her track and realized a little later that, oh, like I need to change this, the guilt, the ruminative thinking, and the irritation which continued earlier was a little less. And with practice, the whole path led her to enduring happiness, which was the end goal for her of the whole practice. So now with this, like I shared this story because it changes me that so much of negativity in a person that also changes with this practice. Huh. So let me go to the next slide here. So, but here, like of course, like in our question, investigation is about Vipassana and social change. So the next question is, it is easy to understand how Vipassana practice would change one person, change her negativity and change her relations. But how would society become more open and permissive for younger generations' relationship patterns? Was the next question, which came up in my mind, and I'm sure, like most of you would ask this question. So I started exploring this next question. So the first question I asked in this area was any unjust social issues. Like what are the unjust social issues? Like examples came up on my mind or discrimination due to any reason, corruption, violence, and so on. These unjust social issues, this injustice in the society, it's similar to mental defilements actually. As mental defilements, when they are in one person's mind, they do not let positivity to spring up. Similarly, when this injustice, when this negativity is there in the society, they do not let positivity to be generated, to spring up. So the next question, then what is the root of social issues? If I have to uproot these any injustice in social problems and if I have to generate positivity, if I want that positivity be generated in the society, like what is the root of these social issues? And the answer I got that individual views, like say society is an abstract concept. Society is made up of individuals and the views that people hold in their mind about any issue, whether about corruption, whether about violence, or about discrimination, that view is the root of any unjust social issue. I decided to explore it with some example. So I took example of female infanticide. We know that female infanticide means intentional killing of newborn babies in patriarchal society. So when the it was there for a long time in such it must be there for a long time in such patriarchal societies. When the technology came to identify gender of human embryo, it started getting misused for this purpose. That now the people who didn't want female babies, they would identify the gender of the embryo in mother's womb itself and use the technology to remove the female embryo. So when some wise people saw this, that it is dangerous for the society, a law was passed against it. And now all the doctors, all the medical practitioners in their clinical setup, they have to put a board that no such illegal testing of gender identification is done in this medical set. And like if like government was very vigilant so that this law is implemented properly, and if anybody is found out transgression is found out to break, if anybody is found out to break the law, he would be or she would be penalized. So now it happened that earlier people were doing it, the parents were doing it very openly, who didn't want female babies. But now the view of these parents was the same, that they didn't want female babies. So it happened that they would find out ways to do it discreetly. Somehow, like they would find out one or two medical practitioners, they would be in search of such doctors who would help them do it. They would offer higher money for doing it. And sadly, wealth is desired by everyone, and sadly, these doctors would fall prey to the bait of the higher money, higher fees. And whoever wanted, like I do understand, I do know that yes, things are changing even in such societies. But somewhere this practice does go on, and that is because of the parents who are still holding on to this very cave-like attitude. And like it is also continuing because of like the parents' view is that uh, the son is their right hair and not the girls, not the daughter. Doctor's view in this situation is that unless caught, I'm not a criminal. And because they are caught by these views of theirs, the heinous activities continue in the society. So the question I asked me in my investigation, that will the perpetrators in this story would change by in any way? It happened that somehow this doctor was found out by the police. He was arrested, he was jailed, and his family members, like this doctor's family members, very much shocked. And he apologized that no, I won't do the same things. And as law is, that he was bailed and he was released also later. The news was in the media for a while, and later on, the whole society forgotten about it and continued their activities. So the same activities, after a break, after a pause, after this arresting this doctor and havoc about this news, it paused for a while, but continued, started very discreetly, and gradually it started on its own. So punishment paused it but didn't stop it. So now what to do? How to stop these kind of activities which are really dangerous to the society? So the next question I asked is, Like, if these perpetrators in this society, will they change if any of them attend a Vipassana course? I'm not sure because they have not yet attended a course, they have not yet thought of a course also. But then I came across this documentary. I'll not be able to show a small clip from this documentary here, but this documentary's name is Doing Time, Doing Vipassana. And it is made uh, on the real time stories of the prisoners in Tihar Jail. So, Tihar Jail is the largest jail in New Delhi, in India, and the Inspector General Kiran Bedi, around 90s, who took the charge, and she was thinking that punishment is not the only solution, and she was looking for the solution so that she can help these prisoners to so that they can deal with their emotions, which were very negative, very intense, very revengeful. And after going out of the society, the crime was aggravated by these criminals, by these prisoners. So she was looking for some solution, and she came across that somebody from her staff told her that I have attended a Vipassana course and came out of my own anger. So, sir, see if that helps here. She said, why not? Let's implement it. Let's see like how it can be organized. And even before this was 1993. Before this, the jail courses were organized in Baroda Jail and Sabarmati Jail in India, and they were with good results. And Kiran Bedi, who was Inspector General that time, she contacted the teachers and assistant teachers, and finally one course was organized in November 1993. It was in jail number 2 of Tihar Jail. I'm specifically mentioning this because here there are hardcore convicts of this whole Tihar Jail, which has 9,000 population. Imagine 9,000 prisoners. Some of them are still awaiting for their case to be heard. So, in the first course, 96 prisoners and 23 jail officials attended this course. It was very successful, and there was more demand for courses, and 4 more courses had to be organized immediately in the next month. And Kiran Bedi was seeing that yes, they are changing. You would see in this documentary that the prisoners are sharing that yes, like we saw that we were revengeful, we were so sad, we were negative about the society. And Kiran Bedi says that these people, despite being in the jail, continued to say that we are innocent, we are innocent. But this is the first time they looked within and they realized that sometimes, yes, I did hurt the society and I got it back like this. And when this realization came from within, it has changed many things. When I'm sharing this also, like there is goose flesh, like it is the documentary is worth seeing, and like how this real time transformation did occur because of Vipassana. So this many scientific studies, actually 2 scientific studies were carried on in Tihar Jail courses by Chandiramani, Verma and Dhar. In all the 3 scientists are from India in 1995. And they found that there was less hostility and helplessness immediately after the course among the prisoners, whoever attended the course. There was improved well being. They must have assessed the well being of these people, the attendees, and they saw that there was improved hope for future. Because when the prisoners waiting for their case to be heard for so long, they had lost all the hope. But now there was more hope. They immediately after the course, there was no change in alienation from mainstream. But after 3 months, when a follow-up assessment was done, they saw that the alienation from mainstream was assessed as the prisoners reported it. And later it happened that Vipassana, the government officials thought at a higher level that Vipassana meditation courses like that be taken as a prison reform measure. So at present, a Vipassana course has been inaugurated inside Tihar Jail, and regular courses are offered annually. Annually, 50 courses are offered in Tihar, in Dhamma Tihara, which is a Vipassana course center inside the jail. Besides India, few other countries have offered Vipassana courses inside their prisons, and these countries are Israel, Mongolia, New Zealand, Taiwan, Thailand, UK, Myanmar, United States, Canada. We can find details of these things on Vipassana Vihara Dhamma website. So I see that after these real time evidences, that Vipassana practice is actually creating ripples of positivity. As a pebble in water creates many ripples around it. So one person, whether perpetrator or whether victim, when they practice Vipassana, when they directly experience that my view is harming me and others, and I need to replace these views by more helpful ones, they are ready to adopt other helpful ones, and they are ready to seek forgiveness, they are ready to seek pardon from the concerned people. This is how Vipassana is creating ripples of positivity. Of course, like ripples, the whole process is very slow, but at least there is a hope. So, Vipassana is direct experience of law of nature, as it is said. Dhamma, it is law of nature, which is Dhamma, called as Dhamma. And this law of nature says that craving leads anyone, whoever craves, he suffers, he or she suffers, despite, irrespective of the background of this person. And anyone who develops equanimity leads, he gets the happiness, irrespective of their background, of nationality, of gender, or whatever. So, after all this, I had no further question that Vipassana does lead to social change. But of course, this Vipassana, this Dhamma, this noble path cannot be forced onto anyone. This is the picture of the Buddha, which is from Global Vipassana Pagoda at Gorai, Mumbai. And we can only wish all of us who are convinced that practice of the noble path, practice of Buddha's teachings, they do lead to social change. We can only wish that may more and more people hear about this noble path, hear about practice, hear about Vipassana meditation. May those who have heard about Vipassana courses, about this noble path, may they experience it. And may those who have experienced this law of nature directly, may they get established on the practice of Vipassana or on this noble path. May they get established. The ones who have got established on the path, may they get enduring peace and happiness. May all beings be happy. So thank you everyone. Thank you Bhanteji. And these are few resources. Yes, Bhanteji.
Thank you so much, Dr. Neelam, for this wonderful session on Vipassana and Social Change, which was a combination of your professional and practical career. I
Yes.
hope this was very helpful to our audience. And if you have any questions or comments, please um, please show up here so that we can share with Dr. Neelam. We have Ashok Bhavishkar and Priyangi and Indika uh, and Napul Pakasan also joined, and some others have actually appreciated your session. When you talked about Vipassana and Goenkaji, I remember myself attending a Vipassana course in 10 days
Yes.
course in 1997, I think.
I see.
That was in Jaipur, India.
I see.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was my first 10-day course with Goenkaji's, and that was an amazing session. I
Yes.
attended with some friends. And
Yes.
now in California, we also have a place for Vipassana practitioners. And yeah, it's really helpful. Many people have
Yes.
been benefited. I think
Yes.
not only the traditional Buddhists, but also the other people.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
because of that openness
Mm.
and no rituals, no statues,
Mm.
I think that also has
Mm.
attracted many people.
Yes. Yes.
That makes a much different
Mm.
turn,
Mm.
especially when it
Yes.
comes to Vipassana, how important it is to practice on your own
Mm.
spiritual journey rather than
Yes.
outer, more glamorous, more attractive rites and rituals.
Mm.
Yeah, I think
Mm.
it's a
Mm.
very interesting way
Mm.
to begin with our
Mm.
internal
Mm.
journey.
Mm. Mm. Especially for people who are non-Buddhist, no? This universal secular kind of approach is more important and appealing. Otherwise, I'm not sure like how many of them would have easily accepted it.
Mm, mm, mm.
Mm.
Yeah, I myself have
Mm.
conducted some session for the prisoners here, and
Mm.
we also
Oh,
have
how nice.
helped other people like incarcerated people, and yeah, I think that
Mm.
helps a lot. And also with the other people, how if you can open up,
Yes.
you can present Buddhist teachings in such a different
Mm.
style
Mm.
and manner.
Mm.
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 I even met
Mm.
um, what is that police officer you mentioned? Um,
Kiran Bedi?
yeah, I met Kiran Bedi in Colombo,
Oh,
in Sri Lanka. Yeah,
how nice.
we had a conference in Sarvodaya, and
Uh-huh.
that time she was there. She was presenting, and there
Wow.
were speakers from India too, and many other countries. So it was beautiful session, and yeah, we I already learned about her before too. So,
Oh, I feel even more connected now. You have already come to my department,
mm,
Pune University department. You have met these people
yes, yes,
about whom I am speaking. It's really connecting.
yeah. And
Yes,
would you like to also explain a little bit more about your department? You said the department was
yes,
before Pali and Sanskrit combined, and later
yes,
it was separated. Would you like to explain
yes.
about that?
Yes. So the department, Pali and Buddhist Studies department, started in 2006 as a separate entity from Sanskrit department. Because earlier, all these Prakrit languages are taught in the same Sanskrit department. So I was not around in the department at that time. In fact, I have the first Vipassana course I have done in 2001, Banteji. But I became a bit serious about Vipassana in 2009's courses, like where I had this aha moment that yes, this is psychology. Buddha is speaking about psychology. So, like, when I was practicing regularly and I was exploring, like, the commonalities between psychology and Vipassana. And to tell you, Banteji, that time, like, I was focusing Vipassana. I didn't know that it is Buddha's teaching. I didn't know much about it. Though Goenkaji speaks about it, I was thinking that it is one thing. So somewhere I realized I wanted to do research on Vipassana, and I realized that, see, if I want, I'll have to know more about the tradition, about the background, where it comes from. I cannot take it just a separate technique and start looking at that, start researching on that. And that's where I thought that if it is coming from Buddha's teaching, let me learn more about it. And I was thinking that it is a part of Indian psychology, actually. Like, as I knew at that time, and I had attended a summer school in Indian psychology during that time. And later I learned that Buddhist psychology is actually separate. It has a unique worldview, which is different from other Indian scriptures. And that is when, like, I approached this Professor Denkar in Pali department, which had already started in 2006. And I asked him that because of Vipassana, I'm thinking of learning more about Buddhism. I want to know how it is closer to psychology and all. And he told me that you do this, you take this one course on Abhidhamma, one paper on Abhidhamma. So I said, okay. I was teaching psychology in another university and I started learning this Abhidhamma papers. Professor Devkar himself was teaching this course. And few courses, few sessions, few lectures attended. And later it happened that I couldn't attend it regularly. That time it used to be offline in person sessions, I couldn't do it because I had to go for my teaching also. And it dropped off. But somewhere Professor Devkar is very open minded and he was thinking that in this time, we should offer Buddha's teaching in modern language. And that's where he was thinking that can we develop a course where we are explaining Buddhist psychology and its similarity to mainstream psychology, modern psychology, and so on. And somehow, I don't know, maybe I was attending his lectures on Abhidhamma before. Uh, in that initial meeting, along with others, I was also called in. And I feel that that was a historical meeting, at least for me. And we were thinking, like, if we have to develop such a course, how to go about it? And then I was comparing how different university, I was looking into how different universities offer Buddhist psychology courses. And we decided then on a diploma course, which has one paper would be Buddhist ideas, which are relevant to psychology. And in this paper, all the Buddhist ideas like Panchaskandha and concept of a human being, Namarupa, Chitta Chetasika would be introduced. And also Buddhist researchers like Lady Sayadaw and Sangharakshita and uh, Venerable Analayo, what they have done, their contribution was also part of this first paper. The second paper would be such where modern psychological ideas are presented and how they are related to Vipassana, to Buddha's teaching. Like, for example, the first credit in this paper starts with the history of psychology. In the history of psychology, like as I told in the beginning of the session, that it was 1979. That's when this John Kabat-Zinn first time brought together these two things. For that, It was not that psychologists were not aware of Buddha Dhamma before, but because it was considered as a Dhamma and psychology wanted to establish itself as a science, they disconnected from that. They didn't pay much attention there. Of course, there were few exceptions. William James was one of them. And with John Kabat-Zinn, of course, it happened that empirical research was possible in these mindfulness-based techniques. And it was in the same time that in 1969, Vipassana courses, 10-day Vipassana courses are also being offered. Because of that also, participants are available where empirical research can be done. And that makes psychologists and scientists more open. So the first credit is about this major milestones in the history of psychology. In the second credit onwards, we go about like the concept of cognition in psychology and in Buddha's teaching, the concept of personality in psychology and Buddhism, concept of emotion, motivation, and so on. Like this, we go on. And in fact, a book by one Sri Lankan professor only, I think Padmasiri De Silva, and his book on Buddhist psychology. And he has compared it very nicely with modern psychology. So we do refer to that. So that's how this course goes on. And in the second semester, like students do learn uh, about therapeutics, like what was Buddha's method of therapeutics, the mind cultivating methods. Are they in any way related to psychotherapies, different streams of psychotherapy or not? And they also do one actually short project, research project, where they apply their learnings in different fields, whichever field they are working in. So that's how this particular course goes on. Now about other few courses, like this department is Pali department, but still with the vision of Professor Devkar, like there is a course on socially engaged Buddhism also. So I'm not completely involved in this engaged Buddhism course, but I'm taking one unit of engaged Buddhism and psychology in that particular course on engaged Buddhism. So that's how newer additions are happening to the courses which are available in the department. And there are many students are opting these days, like students who have done Vipassana, students, Buddhist scholars who are interested to know more about Buddha Dhamma, and even doctors, scientists who want to know, like these days, maybe because of this universal understanding that Buddha Dhamma is universal, the scientists are also aware that this is actually science and we would like to know more about it. Even physicists, doctors, psychologists, they are getting attracted to these different applied courses and trying to learn more about it.
That's
Yes.
such a wonderful news
Mm.
section. Yes. Everywhere in the world now, people have more attention to Buddhism because of
Yes.
Vipassana meditation, and lots of people, individuals, and organizations, they are they are
Mm.
promoting this as
Mm.
very powerful life-saving hack, and
Yes.
not only for the sansaric journey, but also for their day-to-day life. This is
Mm.
very, very helpful, especially during the recent
Mm.
pandemic. Lots and lots of people were suffering and
Mm.
really suffering a lot because they had to be confined to their own homes or rooms,
Mm.
and that
Mm.
time they didn't know what to do. But those people who were lucky enough to be exposed to Vipassana,
Mm.
they had more
Mm.
opportunity to practice. So I think
Mm.
it was a blessing in disguise for them.
Yes, yes. Like, see, people take away, like, I don't know, these days, especially from Buddhist culture, they would openly accept about Nibbana.
Mm,
But I have heard many people asking that we are not interested in Nibbana.
mm,
And they don't know the real meaning of Nibbana.
mm,
They just feel that it is mysterious, it is going away in the Himalayas, it
mm,
is going away from the world, and they say that no, we are not interested into that. And for these people, when they hear that it is not only about this higher level suffering that Buddha is speaking about, but Buddha is speaking about day to day suffering. That's where they get connected to the practice much more.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you have to start with something like little happinesses um, before going to that big lofty goals. Final
Yes.
liberation is something that
Mm.
will come later on, but you have to motivate yourself. You have to feel like
Mm.
even 5 minutes meditation. I remember, like, I started teaching here in our
Mm.
schools, and I started with 5 minutes meditation. They were not Buddhist students, and I asked
Mm.
them to just close your eyes and listen to your own breath and be mindful
Mm.
about the surrounding and the noises. And just some of them said it was the first
Mm.
time ever in their life that they did something like that. And that was really inspiring for them. And I was surprised at the end of the course, many students were doing their presentations on mindfulness meditation.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
So I think we need to think of those little goals first before going to the higher goals. If not, you
Yes.
will not be able to do anything in life, right? Always start with something.
Yes.
Yeah, first step. First step
Mm.
is the most important. Like Neil Armstrong said when he went to moon, it was the first
Mm.
step of the mankind. That was the first step. So
Yes.
you have to somewhere, somehow close your eyes and look into yourself. Somewhere,
Mm.
somehow you have to close your mouth and speak to yourself. That is
Mm.
where you will
Mm.
start your journey, internal journey.
Mm.
I'm sure that will be
Mm.
more helpful to many people. Yeah,
Yes.
and thank you so much for promoting this beautiful Vipassana and psychology combination that really works. I myself
Yes.
have been teaching here um, Introduction to Buddhist Psychology course, so I remember that was really very, very helpful too. And when we are dealing with
Mm.
more people here, who are
Mm.
completely new to Buddhism, we need
Mm.
to actually have some background of psychology. And now we can
Mm.
see, like, when we take a deep dive into uh,
Mm.
Buddhism and modern
Mm.
psychology, is just a little bit, just a drop
Mm.
in the entire ocean. Yeah, I
Yes.
think
Yes.
um, psychology, meditation, and that will be very helpful to us. Especially, we already,
Mm.
almost every one of us, I think, people in
Mm.
India, they
Mm.
they were suffering enough in the recent past due to pandemic, and
Mm.
people in Sri Lanka, they had enough
Mm.
suffering due to the economic
Mm.
collapse, and people
Mm.
in
Mm.
USA, in
Mm.
China, in Brazil, and
Mm.
many other countries, they were suffering
Mm.
enough um,
Mm.
because of
Mm.
maybe it's
Mm.
time for them to get connected more,
Mm.
the
Mm.
internal
Mm.
journey to
Mm.
look into yourself, analyze,
Yeah.
and also be generous, be kind to others, be nice to others. In that
Mm.
way, I think our life can be more meaningful. You might find a
Mm.
meaningful way
Mm.
to live your life, and you
Mm.
might feel more
Mm.
overwhelmed, like enriching, more wholesome.
Mm.
Your life
Mm.
will be when we look
Mm.
into
Mm.
Vipassana.
Mm.
I think 10
So
days,
are
10
you?
days course is a good way to begin with, right?
Yes, yes, very true. That gives you a taste, that this is sweet. This gulab jamun, this sweet is really sweet. Very nice.
I
That
got
course
gulab
gives you, tells you
jamun.
perfectly.
Right.
Yes.
So I think our friends who join us, who will watch this also, we highly recommend, actually take a taste of this. Experience
Yes.
the taste of this meditation if you have never ever done that. Vipassana meditation, like 10 days course will be a good way to begin with. Then it will change the whole course of your life. I'm sure,
Mm,
whole
mm.
course of your life.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
So I would just like to share a small things like the suffering in COVID you mentioned. So it happened that COVID became a blessing in disguise during that time in India. That like we were all locked down in our homes, but somehow online anapana sessions started, and they were offered to hospital patients, to the staff who were like police and doctors who were really working tremendously. And these later we did some research also on that, like how these anapana 10 minutes anapana sessions are helping the patients. That had really helped them, and that became introduction to, yes, further you can go to vipassana sometimes. Yes.
yeah, I think that's a really good way. Like even 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Hmm.
I would say even TikTok meditation, like even just a minute or couple of minutes. You close your
Hmm.
eyes when you have an issue, like when you are angry, when you are so sad, when you are even so
Hmm.
happy. You close your eyes and listen to yourself
Hmm.
and read your own
Hmm.
mind, your body
Hmm.
coordinate mind and body and the thoughts when
Hmm.
here and how your body react. It will be a
Hmm.
wonderful way to begin with your
Hmm.
internal spiritual journey. And yeah,
Yes.
I think if you keep doing it and 5 minutes, 10 minutes, keep improving, and that will be
Hmm.
really helpful. And eventually, maybe when you are ready, go for a 10 days
Hmm.
break. Take a 10 days break and attend the Vipassana course, and then you will see a huge difference. I'm sure
Hmm.
those people who join Vipassana, um, for some it will take like a year or so. It will reverberate within you. Every single
Hmm.
morning, I have to meditate 1 hour, at least.
Hmm.
So you will continue to do that, and maybe after a year or so, you will see like everything is impermanent. So is your enthusiasm. You need to go back. You need to go
Yes.
back and do it again, and then
Yes.
you will continue to consolidate on your practice, and
Hmm.
also stay in
Hmm.
touch with other kalyana, with the friends, other dhamma friends,
Hmm.
others who are like-minded people, um,
Hmm.
temples and organizations or
Hmm.
communities, so you will find enough people in
Hmm.
surroundings when you are in
Hmm.
practice. That will definitely
Hmm.
happen.
Yes. Definitely.
So in your university, do you also have some practical courses like that, or just academic
Yeah,
teaching?
there are more of academic courses, and along with that, this research application and all. But say the particular course of Buddhist psychology, I have said, in between 2 semesters, students go for Vipassana courses. It is a part of their curriculum that they have to attend course and they have to write their first person experiences and all. So that's how we have embedded this practice into the academics.
Very nice. These days, I teach an online course, Buddhist
Mm.
meditation, and I have also recommended a journal,
Mm. I
writing a
see.
journal. So every day they practice, and like
Mm.
I said, if you are a beginner, just start like
Mm.
5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then keep
Mm.
improving every single week. 5 minutes
Yes.
more, and eventually,
Mm.
I recommended how they can improve up to 1 hour at the end of the course,
Mm.
and I see their
Mm.
progress. I
Mm.
see their
Mm.
mind reading, and that's very interesting. Like when I read their journals, it's
Mm.
beautiful.
How nice. How
Yeah.
nice.
So thank you so much, Dr. Neelam Oswal, for sharing your.
Thank you, Banteji. Thank you, Banteji, for this opportunity.
Yes, and we would like to listen to you more from um, your experience in future as well. Whenever you are ready
Sure,
with another topic, please feel free to let us know, and
sure.
we will have an opening for you. And today is also a special um, milestone in our Thursday guest lecture series, and we are privileged to have Dr. Neelam Oswal with us today, and
So
looking
now
forward.
I can say I witnessed that milestone of Dhamma USA.
Right, right. And if
Mm,
there are some more resource persons, we would like to definitely invite
mm,
them. Please introduce more interested, like-minded scholars and practitioners to share their
sure.
wisdom with us. So we have been
Sure.
connected to so many people from
Mm,
around the world, and many friends from India have joined already.
mm.
And
I see.
so yeah, so hopefully we can go a long way to benefit our community, our friends, and
Mm.
sure they will definitely be more benefited. And again, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us, and looking forward to seeing you again with another session like this in future.
Sure.
We wish you long life and good health, and with the blessings of the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, may you always be well, happy, healthy. Dr. Neelam Oswal. And friends, we also look forward to seeing you again with another session like this in the coming weeks. Thank you, and may you be full of peace and happiness. Have a wonderful and blessed day today. Thank you.